I'm predisposed toward giving up. It's a natural reaction given what my attempts at hope and positivity and trying have taught me. Low self-worth, politeness, and stuff. It's a consequence of the very thing I'm about to observe. See, I still do try a lot, or at least try to try, and at a frequency that asymptotically neighbors 100%, trying is an immediately punishing experience. It scrapes me with tedium. I have a chronic illness, I'm a lot more disabled than I look online, and I try to get it addressed via the NHS, the once impressive UK health service has now been thoroughly impaired due to defunding and the government's neglect and antipathy for the public. They've been trying to make the service so shit that we'll be relieved when it's removed entirely. This involves a lot of very long waiting lists and disservice. In the current iteration, I've been referred for gastrointestinal surgery due to a lifelong condition that caused decades of anorexia and now being barely able to digest anything. It's had decades of investigation, shrugs, and mainly not bothering with investigation to find the problem. Something that was ultimately quite evident on a simple torso x-ray, and the problem was only incidentally noticed by a radiographer who had no diagnostic remit while looking for something else. I had to nag them to get the comment added to my record as other irrelevant tests were done. Along the way, I'd striven to get everything checked. My illness had been unplaceable, and there's literally got to be some cause. The surgery referral went through last autumn, and I got quoted an estimated waiting time that fluctuated between 25 and 30 weeks. I never expect to stay alive that long, but I guess that was reasonable. I wasn't going to enjoy this half year either way. Sure, fine. I suffer a lot. I find every day overwhelmingly difficult. I'm barely mobile, suicidal as a consequence of discomfort, yada yada. If it were much longer, I would probably have pursued private healthcare. I'm no fan of private healthcare. I disdain that the industry exists, and the one time I've tried it, it was shit and expensive. But it's instinctively the expedient option. We shouldn't reduce well-being to something rationed out to those who can afford it, and I don't know how much I'd be able to afford it anyway. It's horrible that affording health can be a selective privilege, but that's the world we've got. My referral from the start had the category urgent tier 3 on it, which it's cool to learn that urgency has subdivisions. This NHS referral once cited an estimated treatment date of May 2024, but as that time came to pass, the estimate changed context so it didn't have to refer to a date. Still, that's an average waiting time. I could be slightly over the average, I could wait it out. A lot of ill people in the UK are experiencing similar, and if my urgency is on the back burner, it's for the sake of others' urgency. I definitely don't want a queue jump, except that's the way the system works. It rewards tenacity, and I consider that thoroughly ableist. See, after keeping quiet and waiting like I was told, then keeping quiet and waiting a bit more because it's not like they would lie to me, I resolved to contact the NHS liaison team to find out how come I'm waiting so much. And the answer was that 25 weeks had been misinformation and the actual waiting list was up to 55 weeks and had been from the start at which I could have pursued private healthcare. I don't know how it happened. With such misinformation affecting my choices, I probably have the right to take legal action, but I lack the tenacity or vengeance. I generally believe that it's a wounded system in which most employees have benevolent intents, at least everyone not in management and maybe not shipman. Even before getting the new number at more than double the wait time, it felt like a very thick sunk cost fallacy that I just had to put up with 25 more weeks and then maybe stuff might be bearable and all the other agony would be vindicated. Living is a sunk cost fallacy, and so is the whole damn system. The liaison agent said, at least it's not much longer now, and it's true but pointless to contrive positivity from this disservice. But the cost you've already sunk. They offered to chase up the cause of this mistake, but I don't desire to be punitive. Maybe I regret that now I've thought about it and realized the other hundreds of people given this objectively wrong waiting time will face the same neglect until it's confronted. Because I only found out because I was brave enough to call. I'm not great at getting up during daytime opening hours. In the long term, I found phone calls anxious, there's poor signal at home, and the NHS shouldn't just be improvising pleasantries to placate its clients like it's an holistic human. The only proactive contact I got from that waiting list was them asking if I'm still alive and if I happen to have gotten better and want to quit. Like a choose your own adventure where you carefully have to find the option that won't eliminate you. After allowing me to articulate the complexities of my condition, the agent I spoke to offered 2 extra shortcuts for me. Firstly, that I could join the queue in case of cancellations. Why aren't I already on that? And secondly, that I could get my GP to send an expediting letter, which I guess is like underlining the word urgent a few more times. These were only mentioned 10 minutes into the call and felt like the extra helper item a video game gives you after you fail enough times, a secret unlock. I afforded this privilege because I persisted after holding out with faith in the system that had chosen to string me along with breadcrumbs of hope like some kind of millennial friend. But I've striven for decades to communicate the severity of my illness and not been offered much. Big-headedly, I wonder if my eloquence holds me back, that I seem to be able to cope as I'm describing how difficult that is. I thanked the member of staff for giving me the best response available in reality, while noting that it's obviously a thoroughly dissatisfying response. But the fact that me doing this is unlocking contextually preferential treatment, yeah, within the context of systemic disregard, it's still preferential. That's how I can be prioritized above everyone else who's disserviced and doesn't deserve to be deprioritized. That is, if I put the work in and get a GP referral, which is extra admin against a similarly reject-oriented system. I've tried calling for that, got forwarded to different desks and back again on hold and re-explaining to each member of staff, each of whom was making it up as they go. It remains a bureaucratically snail-paced pursuit where I need the kind of moxie and ADHD I can't summon by themselves, just for the sake of maybe glimpsing a chance at the treatment I should already be getting. That's a microcosmic example that illustrates the holistic fractal problem. Everything we do is like this. In every corner of administrative work here, I had to get past how willing I am to accept defeat and how constantly defeat is being offered. It's the board game Labyrinth, where there's always a pit of disregard that needs to be avoided by the skill you only really learn on reiteration with coordination and luck. Well, maybe no luck in the actual game. Let's say you're playing it on a plane in turbulence. There. Perfect metaphor. Oh, and the end game isn't wellness, but basic respectful consideration. And every corner takes you to a full miniature labyrinth board of its own anyway, and the David Bowie in it is dead. Okay, here's another regard from my experience. Due to my chronic illness, I'm not able to work a full-time job. I can barely manage a part-time job, so that's what I've ended up doing. Barely managing. The UK, being among the nicer nations despite everything, has a system of offering financial help to impaired people like me, the personal independence payment. I've applied for this twice in the past, 9 years ago and 2 years ago, and both times it came back with a declaration that I can get £0 naughty naught. What a naughty response. People with disabilities and specialists concur that my impairment should qualify me for PIP. These responses are made by a private company contracted by the government to reduce the number of claimants. It's possible to contest that response, but I don't have that fight in me. I'm not like that. I've tried again anew this year, starting my application in March. It's required that I make a phone call to request a form be sent to me. What an odd requirement, but I went through with it. I've not yet received the form. I don't know if it's paper or online, but after months of waiting, I called them to ask squared is, and found that I had been forgotten due to a data error. I get this a lot given that my surname looks like the top row of the Excel sheet for surnames, but you'd figured that'd make me a priority. Row 1. I'm very used to being an administrative error, an exception that doesn't fit in the field, and it kind of validates my gender identity anyway. Still, in this context, whoever input my data would have directly recognized the problem and been able to call me to resolve it. Instead, they waited for me to call them. When I had been told to wait for the form, it was only learning to run out of patience that got me some progress. Speaking to their staff, again very pleasant individuals, some seeming as benevolent as the NHS, but you still cock an eyebrow because of the nature of their remit. They found my prior applications and commented that I ought to have contested my rejections. Yeah, but I'm all about accepting defeat. I barely pass a drain without spiraling it. Labyrinth's about scoring in every hole, right? I agree that I ought to have contested my rejections, but if we're bringing oughtness into the equation, I ought not to have been rejected. If contesting my rejection would have negated it, then I shouldn't have been rejected. See, this is another system that rewards tenacity, hence punishes acceptance. It's not being someone who deserves fair treatment that gets you fair treatment, but continually insisting. The system is built to exploit the hopelessness we feel from dealing with the system. Its very function banks upon many of us dropping out in this way. In both these examples of systemic errors, if I continued believing that their system was functioning as described, I would have been further disserviced. It's a systemized version of those lies humans do to pretend everything's fine. How far into the brain rot of capitalist realism are we that an unbreakable attitude of insular self-determination is necessary, not just for the nasty concept of getting ahead of whom, but to get respect or kind of basic human rights. As I learn this lesson, I also denounce it because of the other hundreds on my waiting list, the other tens of thousands given insufficient benefit support, the millions in the UK who face this attitude, the billions worldwide forced to believe in competing. Competition breeds suffering, and it's made humanity a competition breed that's suffering.